students, welcome to the lecture on training and performance appraisal. And after the lecture, we will be able to learn the following objectives. Understand the concepts of training and performance appraisal. Explain the effective performance appraisal system. Describe the classification of training programs. Discuss about induction and orientation. Understand training for top and middle level management. Describe the steps for designing and training programs. Describe counseling process. Let's start with training and performance appraisal. Training is a systematic development of the information, skills, and attitudes required by employees to execute adequately on a given task or job. It can take place in a number of ways, on the job or off the job, in the organization or outside society. A performance appraisal is a review and discussion of an employee's performance of assigned duties and responsibilities. The appraisal is based on results obtained by the employee in his or her job, not on the employee's personality characteristics. Let's now talk about the definition and purposes of training and performance appraisal. Training has been observed as part of human development. Human development is a process of enlarging people's choices. In principle, these choices can be infinite and change over time. But at all levels of development, the three essential ones are for people to live a long and healthy life, to acquire information through training, and to have access to resources needed for a decent standard of living. The objectives of training are to provide the skills, information, and aptitudes necessary to undertake required job efficiently. Develop the workers so that if he or she has the potentials, he or she may progress. Increase efficiency by reducing spoilt work, misuse of machines, and lessening physical risks. Performance appraisal is a method of evaluating the behavior of employees in the workplace, normally including both the quantitative and qualitative aspects of job performance. Performance appraisal helps to rate the performance of the employees and evaluate their contribution towards the organizational goals. Performance appraisal forms. Employees and supervisors have the option to choose the form they wish to use for the self-appraisal and employee appraisal processes. SMART goals. An important component of WPI's performance appraisal process is the identification of SMART goals. Mid-year review. In order to facilitate frequent communication and periodic reviews between supervisors and employees, an optional mid-year review tool has been created. Need for manpower training. There are some key features which describes the need for manpower training. These are: increase in the size of business. Manpower planning is very helpful when there is expansion of the plant. At the time of taking the decision for expansion of the plant, a large number of workers are required to be recruited. Effective recruitment selection policy. Manpower planning helps in formulating effective recruitment and selection policy. Manpower planning is concerned with the right type of people from all sources to meet planned requirements. Effective employee development program. Manpower planning reveals the training needs of the working manpower, with the result that training and development programs become more effective. Reduction in labor cost. Manpower planning ensures recruitment and maintenance of better developed manpower resource, which results in reduced manpower costs. National policy on employment. National policy on employment does not allow any employer to oust the worker once employed by the organization. It is very essential to recruit the workers carefully according to the needs of the enterprise. Classification of training programs. The evaluation of training programs is, without a doubt, the most important step in the training process. This will indicate the effectiveness of both the training as well as the trainer. There are several obvious benefits for a training program. On-the-job training, OJT. Trainees earn as they learn under the watchful eyes of a master mechanic or craftsman, receive immediate feedback, practice in the actual work environment, and associate with the same people they will work with after training. Vestibule training. It is used for semi-skilled workers. It attempts to duplicate on-the-job situations in a classroom. Classroom has equipments and machines which are identical to the place of work. The trainee can concentrate on learning the new skill rather than performing an actual job. Simulation. Trying to duplicate the actual conditions encountered in a job as nearly as possible. Vestibule training is an example. Best used in aeronautical industry. The trainee shows interest and motivation as the actions of the trainee closely duplicate real job conditions. Apprenticeship. Used for jobs like machinist, draftsman, mechanic, etc. The major part of time is spent on the job productive work. Each apprentice is given a program of assignments according to a predetermined schedule. Role play. It is a method of human interaction which involves realistic behavior in imaginary situations. Trainees are given a role as in a stage play. Primarily hiring, firing, grievance procedure type of roles played. Did you know 360-degree feedback is multiple evaluations of employees which often include assessments from superior or superiors, peers, and one's self. Induction and orientation. Induction is a technique by which a new employee is rehabilitated into the changed surroundings and introduced to the practices, policies, and purposes of the organization. Induction consists of the task of introducing or orienting the new employee to the company. When a candidate is finally selected, he or she is issued the appointment letter and is asked to join the organization. Induction is a follow-up action of hiring and concerned with the problem of introducing or orienting a new employee to the organization. Difference between induction and orientation. Induction and orientation are part of a program that is designed to make a new employee comfortable in the organization and to make him or her learn the job he or she has to perform in an easy manner. Induction comes first and is followed by orientation. Induction is more informal, while orientation is more formal. Induction is shorter, mostly of a day, while orientation may take up to 7 days. Let's now talk about the training for top and middle level management. Training for middle level management. Several methods are used to train employees for middle management positions. Step 1. Volunteer for on-the-job training opportunities. Many companies cross-train employees to prepare them to step in when needed. Volunteering for cross-training in management positions means one will be ready and ahead of the game. Step 2. Attend management seminars. Many seminars are designed to prepare the attendees to step into middle management positions. Attend these events to send a message that one is interested in advancement and that one has taken the initiative. Step 3. Continue one's education. Obtain a degree or pursue one of a higher level. Companies pay attention to employees who continue their education, especially if one goes for a degree that relates to the business one is in. Step 4. Join local civic organizations. These clubs are filled with upper management members and owners of businesses in the area. Taking part in the club's activities, networking opportunities, and educational opportunities will help to groom for middle management positions. Step 5. Request a management intern position. Well, it may not pay a lot. It will put one directly under the wing of members of upper management, from whom one will receive training for middle management positions. Training for top-level management. The program points towards helping top-level management in understanding the role and responsibility of the board of directors in strategic thinking and analysis, in addition to offering high-level experience that stimulates solutions-oriented thinking for their key challenges through providing them with the role of the board in setting strategy and monitoring performance. Overview of strategic management processes from a corporate governance perspective. Using strategy to gain strategic advantage, reduce risk, and avoid personal liability. Design new policies and redesign the already existing policies in an effective way. Steps for designing the training programs. Assess training needs. The first step in developing a training program is to identify and assess needs. Set organizational training objectives. The training needs assignments will identify any gaps in one's current training initiatives and employee skill sets. These gaps should be analyzed and prioritized and turned into the organization's training objectives. Create a training action plan. The next step is to create a comprehensive action plan that includes learning theories, instructional design, content, materials, and any other training elements. Implement training initiatives. The implementation phase is where the training program comes to life. Organizations need to decide whether training will be delivered in-house or externally coordinated. Evaluate and revise training. The training program should be continually monitored. At the end, the entire program should be evaluated to determine if it was successful and met training objectives. Sequence of training programs. An effective training program has a beginning, a middle, and an ending, whether it is half-day session or month-long program. When planning a training program, it is important to follow a few steps. Establish the objectives of the training session. Design the content and format of the training program. Select teaching methods and materials. Clarify role of trainers or facilitators. Need for a training policy. The purpose of training is to equip people with the necessary skills, knowledge, and attitudes to meet the organization's needs in relation to its objectives. By investing in people through their training, their full potential and focus, their energies will be on the needs of the organization, while fulfilling their need for personal development and job satisfaction. Methods. The methods of training are classroom lecture method. This is the most commonly used, simple, cost-effective, and conventional method. It is time-saving because it covers a maximum number of people in a short period of time. Group discussion method. It is a method used for knowledge and attitudinal development of trainees. In this method, sets of people examine several empirical studies to find out commonalities to derive the underlying general principles. They then combine their ideas and focus their attention on a given problem at a time, speaking from multiple points of view within a group. Simulation exercises method. Simulators are a group of training devices of varying degrees of complexity that model the real world. They range from simple mock-ups of mechanical devices to computerized creations of total environments. Case study method. It is a written down narrative description of a real situation or incident relating to an organization and its business, depicting any problem that participants could face in their employment. Participant trainees are required to propose any number of vital solutions or decisions that match the variables represented in the case. Management games method. Games are used as a training tool than as mere pastimes or amusement. Trainees are divided into teams and are given common tasks on which they would be competing to arrive at decisions and then jointly implementing and evaluating the decisions taken with regard to the games. Let's now talk about the performance appraisal. Performance appraisal plans are designed to meet the needs of the organization and the individual. Performance appraisal could be taken either for evaluating the performance of employees or for developing them. Performance appraisal aims at attaining the different purposes. They are to create and maintain a satisfactory level of performance, to contribute to the employee growth and development through training, self, and management development programs, to help the superiors to have a proper understanding about their subordinates, to facilitate fair and equitable compensation based on performance. Traditional methods of performance appraisal. Rating scales method. Rating scales method is a commonly used method for assessing the performance of the employees and a well-known traditional method of performance appraisal of employees. Many corporations and companies are using this method for evaluating the employees and subsequently take decisions on concerned employee. Appraisal method. This traditional form of appraisal, also known as free-form method, involves a description of the performance of an employee by his or her superior. The description is an evaluation of the performance of any individual based on the facts and often includes examples and evidences to support the information. Paired comparison. A better technique of comparison than the straight ranking method. This method compares each employee with all others in the group, one at a time. Checklist method. The rater is given a checklist of the descriptions of the behavior of the employees on a job. The checklist contains a list of statements on the basis of which the rater describes the on-the-job performance of the employees. Modern methods of performance appraisal. Assessment centers. An assessment center typically involves the use of methods like social informal events, tests and exercises, and assignments being given to a group of employees to assess their competencies to take higher responsibilities in the future. Behaviorally anchored rating scales. Behaviorally anchored rating scales, BARS, is a relatively new technique which combines the graphic rating scale and critical incidence method. It consists of predetermined critical areas of job performance or sets of behavioral statements describing important job performance qualities as good or bad. Human Resource Accounting Method. Human resource accounting is a method to measure the effectiveness of personnel management activities and the use of people in an organization. HRA is the process of assigning, budgeting, and reporting the cost of human resources incurred in an organization, including wages and salaries and training expenses. Steps in performance appraisal. In an effective performance appraisal system, employees know what is expected of them and against what standards they will be judged. The outline of performance appraisal steps, including those leading up to the actual appraisal, are: define the job and performance standards. The job should be well defined so that employee knows what tasks are critical. Standards of acceptable performance also should be determined for each task. Plan for performance. In this stage, the supervisor and employee develop a plan for the rating period that guides the subordinate's work. During planning, the employee must understand the key tasks of the job, the results and conduct required in the job, and the standards of performance. Monitor performance. Both the employee and the employer should be actively involved in monitoring the employee's performance during the rating period. Throughout the rating, the supervisor should provide feedback to the employee, reinforcing good performance and correcting poor performance. Appraise performance and conduct performance interview. The supervisor completes a performance appraisal form and conducts a performance appraisal interview with each employee. Employees should be told how well they are doing, why they are doing so well or poorly, and what they can do to improve or maintain their performance. Reward performance. During this final stage, good performance often is reinforced with a reward. The reward system should be capable of differentiating among various levels of employee performance. Let's now talk about performance counseling. Performance counseling is basically given by the manager to an employee exhibiting poor performance. Mostly, counseling sessions take place when an employee fails to improve his or her performance even after receiving an informal notification or advice about the same. The counseling process. Generally, counseling sessions happen in private between the manager and the employee, with an observer, support person attending these sessions if required. Effective counseling sessions are characterized by an interactive, two-way, and open communication. Records of counseling sessions are maintained, duly signed by the participants. The manager follows up at a regular interval to ensure that the employee is progressing as per the plan and the set timelines. Performance counseling process. Feedback. It is extremely important that the feedback is communicated in a manner that produces a constructive response in the subordinate. Some guidelines that could be followed in giving feedback are: feedback should be descriptive and non-evaluative. It should be focused on the behavior of the person rather than on the person himself. When conveying feedback, it is generally desirable to back it up with a few examples of actual events. Feedback should be given timely. It should be given at the first opportunity when the employee is in the receptive mood. Pre-interview preparation. Make sure one knows what was mutually agreed in terms of job responsibilities. Review the employee's background, education, training, and experience. Determine the strengths and development needs to be discussed with the employee. It is always useful to note down the key points on a piece of paper. Interview. Be sincere, informal, and friendly. Explain the purpose of the discussion and make it clear to the subordinate that the interview is a two-way communication. Encourage the employee to discuss how he or she appraises his or her own performance. Before discussing suggestions one has for his or her development, encourage the employee to tell his or her own plans. Make a record of plans you and the employee have made, points requiring follow-up. Let's now talk about performance management. Performance management is the process through which supervisors and those they lead gain a shared understanding of work expectations and goals, exchange performance feedback, identify learning and development opportunities, and evaluate performance results. Components of performance management. Performance planning. A dialogue between a supervisor and an employee to establish clear, specific performance expectations at the beginning of the performance cycle. Coaching. Two-way discussions which focus on recognizing employee excellence and areas for improvement and learning, as well as identifying barriers to performance. Multiple sources of feedback. A process which provides employees with performance information to supplement supervisory feedback may include feedback sources such as self-evaluation, peers, constituents, or direct reports. Performance review. A summative two-way discussion and written documentation focusing on employee performance, areas of excellence, goals for improvement, and development needs. Designing metrics. A performance metric is that which determines an organization's behavior and performance. Performance metrics measure an organization's activities and performance. It should support a range of stakeholder needs from customers, shareholders, to employees. There are a number of different performance metrics which, as modern audit tools, are used to measure the performance of companies within the context of the current economy. Three of these metrics are activity-based costing, ABC, the balanced scorecard, BSC, and economic value added, EVA.
Performance management is basically what organizations do to become more successful and to ensure they are delivering against their strategic priorities. So if you want, performance management is actually the most important task of any executive and any manager in any organization.
And what are the components of performance management?
The key components for me for performance management are that they help you to define your strategy, so you articulate your strategic priorities. You then measure performance, so measuring, collecting data and information. Another component is then to use this information and analyze it to extract insights. And then another component is to use this information to report and communicate performance information. And the final component is to use this to align not only the organization, but people and what they do to the strategy of the business. And they are the key frameworks that I outline in my book, The Intelligent Company.
How does performance management relate to the management of people?
So how does performance management relate to people performance? Very often confusing for people. Performance management talk about how do we manage our people in terms of making sure they are performing well, and performance management is very often used in the strategic context. So how do we manage our company holistically? And there's a difference between performance management as people management, which is part of what we call corporate performance management, but it's not the whole story. So people performance management is part of corporate or strategic performance management, but it's not the whole story.
What's the role of technology in performance management?
Technology supports performance management. I don't believe that you can run and manage corporate performance without the right tools, with the right performance management tools available, so you can collect the data together, analyze this data, and report performance back. So they are the three important components of technology. They allow you to collect and store the data. They allow you to then take this data and analyze it to get insights, and it allows you to present this information back to people and report it.
And is there a common technical solution that's available for everybody, or do different size organisations need different scales of technology?
There are lots of different tools available. On our website we have the whole list of all performance management packages available. Big vendors would include SAP, Oracle and others. But then you have lots of mid-sized vendors, lots of very small vendors, and it really depends on your existing IT strategy, on your existing IT infrastructure to find the right tool that is applicable for you.
Did you know Kurt Lewin is extensively recognized as the beginning father of organization development, even though he died before the concept became current in the mid-1950s? Let's now talk about the training and development programs in India. Learning helps our employees develop and take on bigger challenges and responsibilities. Learning is essential to success, allowing one to develop new initiatives, re-skill our workforce, and increase the leadership capabilities of the people. Management development and training, the Indian and global context. It is common knowledge that management development and training are two sides of the same coin, namely human resource development, HRD. They assert that training is a short-term facet of HRD concerned with the development of present skills of a job and also the future skills that would help in its efficient execution. Management development, on the contrary, is a long-term and continuing phenomenon equipping a person with skills and concepts that could prepare him or her to take up new responsibilities and challenges. Status of management development and training. The Indian economy is composed of three important organs: government, public sector, and private sector. An attempt has been made to analyze the status of management development and training as related to these three organs. Management development and training in public enterprises. There are about 1,400 public enterprises at the central, state, and local levels, organized principally in the form of government companies, statutory corporations, departmental enterprises, commissions, authorities, boards, mixed corporations, and port trusts. These employ about 6 million personnel. The investment in these enterprises is about 120 billion US dollars. The salaries and wages in these enterprises constitute 12% of their turnover, which may be as much as 120 billion US dollars. The expenses on training and management development are about 0.5% of the turnover. Management development and training in private enterprises. Bitten by the globalization bug, the public sector is on wane, and a new private-public sector mix is emerging in which the public sector is required to play a supportive role. The private sector is on the growth path. The private sector has to move from old economy to new economy where owners and employees will be subordinated by the enterprise. Now, in the end, let us summarize what we have learned in this lecture. Performance appraisal is a method of evaluating the behavior of employees in the workplace, normally including both the quantitative and qualitative aspects of job performance. Manpower planning helps in formulating effective recruitment and selection policy. Manpower planning is concerned with the right type of people from all sources to meet planned requirements. Simulators are a group of training devices of varying degrees of complexity that model the real world. They range from simple mock-ups of mechanical devices to computerized creations of total environments. Performance appraisal is the assessment of an individual's performance in a systematic way. It is a developmental tool used for all-round development of the employee and the organization. Performance counseling is basically given by the manager to an employee exhibiting poor performance. Counseling sessions take place when an employee fails to improve his performance even after receiving an informal notification or advice about the same.